Bullet, the focused, dangerous fighter with a look of total steel. Bullet is a straightforward style at base, but has several unique tendencies to it that cause its natural flow of gameplay to deviate a lot more than you'd expect it to. It's not exactly, loved by all, but I personally think it's cooler than people give it credit for. Bullet is a heavy outboxer and especially thrives on counterpunching. Its hits deal a solid amount of extra counter damage, and the hits are quick with a very strong range. Once you connect with an opponent, you'll attack with a flurry of left-handed jabs. The jabs themselves have relatively good anti-heal, though their block and chip damage is not particularly high. You'll never be able to break through in a single string unless you're attacking a particularly weak block. If you manage to win the next interaction though, their block will already be down and you'll practically be able to get an entire string of attacks in, which is especially beneficial for Bullet. In return for these swings though, you take slightly higher counter damage yourself, so you have to watch your swings and be careful about your movement. Speaking of movement, a major factor of Bullet is that its dashes are especially poor. They're the second worst in the game, with only Turtle being behind it. This cooldown is absolutely miserable, preventing you from pulling off any sort of double dashing. If you fall for a feint, there is no way for you to avoid it. Your discipline on dashing is going to have to be pushed to the extreme, considering how non-lenient they are compared to everything else. Otherwise, Bullet is decently well-rounded. Your block is average, damage is good, and your heavy attack is capable of some disgusting power. If you can land a successful counter hit on an opponent with your heavy, you'll land a Thunderbolt, which has a massive damage boost and leaves no healable health behind. Like I've discussed with other guides, identifying patterns and being generally unpredictable with this swing will garner the best results. Hitting it consistently is close to impossible, but just landing it once or twice has the potential to completely shift the tides of a match. Now that we've got the basics out of the way, it's time we discuss Bullet's passive, the Bullet Jab. To put it as simply as possible, every time your opponent dashes, there will be a very small window where your M1 will come out almost instantly, which can practically guarantee a hit into a string if your opponent doesn't try to react to it. This special jab also does bonus counter damage, so keep that little tidbit in mind if your enemy is a particularly heavy swinger. Alas, this jab isn't entirely free. It can still be escaped if an opponent is a speedster style like Kronos, and you'll be left with some end lag if it misses, which will often guarantee your opponent a hit at close range. Regardless, this jab is still a great tool. It triggers on every kind of dash. This means that not only can you shut down enemies who attempt to forward dash into you, but you can chase enemies who backdash and fire it off just as you both stop moving. Just remember that the window for this jab is very tight. You'll have to be paying a lot of attention to an opponent's habits to make it work. Speaking of paying attention, Bullet is entirely based on that. The best way to put it is you have to scare your opponent into making moves that will just get them caught. Your dashes have to be kept to a minimum, and at height your player going to have to be able to read feints unless you choose to backdash every heavy and entirely leave an interaction. Your range is strong, which gives you good distance and whiff punishing potential. Remember that your opponent cannot attempt to follow you with a forward dash, because as Bullet, you will entirely control the distance you and your enemy stay at, and you have to take advantage of it. Controlling your dashes is really important. I cannot stress that enough. You cannot be the one who gets scared and dashes randomly during a close-up scuffle. Applying this special anxiety-inducing level of pressure is something that takes practice and a certain level of patience. The best way to do it is to fake a certain level of movement. Maybe flash your block, move a little to the left, or just forward dash into them at close range. Do what you can to break their line of concentration without accidentally screwing yourself over. Most opponents who know how the Bullet Jab works are going to be tough for you to fight, regardless of how smart you are. Since they're aware of your gimmick, they too are going to be avoiding stupid dashes and want you to be the fearful player so they get free punishes off of your shit movement. As a relief measure though, your feints have a bit of a bonus edge. If you can time your feint properly, your Bullet Jab, the instant swing, will still release and allow you an instant forced interaction. Besides that though, you just need to have that game knowledge. You see what I'm getting at here? Fighting or playing as Bullet is entirely based on whoever's more prone to cracking under pressure. If you're playing Bullet and your enemy starts to fall apart or generally just panic, that's only going to give you more opportunities to launch your instant swing or land a devastating counter hit. Because of the dashes, Bullet's gameplay isn't actually that perfect dodge oriented. You still can, obviously, but your base heavy damage isn't anything special, so don't worry about it too hard. If you're going to do any dodging at all, it should be either for that perfect dodge for the little burst of damage or backing way to maintain the distance you want. Like I said earlier, as long as you're smart with your instant jab, you fully control where your opponent is at any given point. It's best to use this as an opportunity to take a brief breather or recover health before moving back in. I used to play Bullet for a very long time, and one little tip I discovered is that staggering your light attacks can be helpful for baiting your opponent to unblock. If you hold S while attacking a block, stop attacking for a split second before firing again. This will make it look as though you're moving away when you're actually still capable of continuing the string. The timing for this is a bit tight, but definitely possible with practice. This can be a great little mix-up tool for your otherwise simple light attacks. Despite that though, don't get cocky about your light swing speed. They can and will be dodged if you play stupid. Focus on getting counters and surprising people with an instant jab by scaring them out of a standoff. Bullet has range, swing speed, and the ability to instantly fire off an attack at an unsuspecting player. Regardless though, your success relies entirely on how well trained you are in the aspects of keeping a level head and knowing when to keep distance or move forward. You control the play, but that doesn't mean you just win by default. You need to have tricks up your sleeve that an opponent may not be ready for. Keep your movements tight, coordinated, and very practiced while mixing up just when you plan to swing, and you're going to be seriously freaking people out. With this bloodthirsty guide now complete by me, Dave Pyramid, I'm sure you'll be the new Deathblow Dragon of the Ring. I'll catch you on the flip side, and I hope you learned something. Peace!
Let me break it down for you, Mark.